I think it's awesome that, we play a game Tuesday and win by 59 and makes us 8-2. And there's 4 people in the press room after the game covering our team. And I make a statement about not having a full team, and we got 10 people covering the Zoom call today. I think this awesome. I think it's awesome. Negative news, all kinds of people show up. Positive news, 3 or 4 guys show up. But here we go again, man. COVID, gotta love it. Gets guys in great mood.
Dave, and then Colin.
Hey, Frank, thanks for doing this. I mean, has anything changed for good or better or for worse since you announced last night about the guys being out?
No, we tested again this morning, and not the guys that are positive. It's not to clear them, but to see if there's anyone else that's positive. And those results come in somewhere between 2:30 and 3. We're scheduled to leave between 3:30 and 4. So, right now, our guys, me, we're getting on the bus and going to go play. It's God forbid, we got more positives, then obviously Clemson has to make a decision. If they, let's say we only have 8 guys, do they still want to play a game with, this thing kind of spreading in our locker room? And do we need to get on the bus and go if it continues to spread? That's it, but the plan is to get on the bus and go.
Colin?
Yeah, Frank, were there any conversations with Brad or internally about canceling and trying to postpone? And when you guys do get to Clemson or your team hotel, what does tomorrow look like in terms of testing, if at all?
No, Brad and I have not talked, and never have I had a second of thought about canceling or postponing, not this game or any game. That's why we got vaccinated. That's why we did all this, was so we can coach and play a season. And so I'm not real happy with the fact that we're still treating the policies in place are pre-vaccination policies. And that, what's the purpose of getting vaccinated if we're going to get treated? There's 2, it's A and B. Okay. It's either protect yourself from living and dying, which is why we got vaccinated. I got vaccinated. I don't want to die. Okay. But then there's a professional side to this. Are we going to play a season? We won't play the season, then we can't have the policies that we had pre-vaccinations, and we still do. And when I say we, I'm not talking about South Carolina. I'm talking about college basketball. And, so I think all that needs to be reevaluated. I'm disappointed it wasn't evaluated before the season.
And is there a plan to test tomorrow as well before the game at all?
I don't have that answer for you, Colin. I'm assuming the answer is no, because I believe it's a 3 to 5 day window from the way it's been explained to me. And I think tomorrow puts us outside that 5-day window from when the whole thing started.
Michael?
Just how have you and especially the players just processed this news, especially after dealing with it so much last year? I know a lot of new players on this team who weren't here who dealt with it, but just how has the team sort of handled this news at this point?
Well, it's initially it was just, one guy. And then we practiced yesterday down 3. And then after practice yesterday, it became down 4. And then the injuries, I mean, obviously you guys know we're dealing with 2 guys that are hurt. And so I would think you guys, even though you guys write for a living and I used to add and subtract for a living, I think you guys can figure out 2 injuries. Frank said 6 guys out, 6 minus 2, 4. There we go. We got to the number 4. But the guys have been great. Our practice yesterday was pretty good. The guys have been great. We all dealt with every one of us in the sport, regardless of what school we were at. Last year was a complicated year, and we're not going to get to the same mindset, the same place that any of us were last year. I know I'm not. But at the end of the day, they're human beings, man. And, it's, we all got vaccinated so we can be safe personally and play a season professionally. And when I mean professional, I'm talking about what we all choose to do. And, if the vaccines are not going to prevent transmission, just keep us safe from death, I'm at peace with that. But then we can't have the policies we had pre-vaccines. It's, if not, it's not going to work.
Colin?
Frank, just how much, if at all, do you have to change your game plan going into this game in terms of who's available and who's not, and how you play, if at all, and what's kind of been the internal feeling among the staff as you guys try to game plan for missing a bunch of guys?
Yeah, no, it's, when you're missing 1-2 guys, you really don't deviate too much from how you want to play. When you're down 6, you got to make some adjustments. And, I think I said this yesterday, offensively, especially offensively, you don't spend a lot of time creating, I don't want to say opportunities. It's not opportunity, but creating strategy to play through the strengths of the guys that are going to play 2 minutes a game. You just don't spend a lot of time. You don't have enough practice time to devote to that. But when now guys that have been playing 2 minutes a game have to play 20 minutes a game, you need to adjust some stuff on the fly to fit their talents. And that's part of the journey of what a coach and players go through is being at peace with that. And, when you have unlimited practice time, you do all kinds of stuff. When you only get X number of hours, and that's including film work and weights and team meetings, there's only so much court time you have. So you can't, there's a lot of stuff you can't do. But that's, we've made some adjustments yesterday, and we practice here at 12:30 today. So there's some other adjustments that we'll make at practice today. And then we got to go out there and reinforce it at shoot around tomorrow, and trust that we're going to go out there and play best we can through those adjustments, Saturday night.
Back to Dave?
Frank, kind of a strange situation where you guys obviously didn't get to play Clemson last year. So it's really kind of a 2-year scout, for lack of a better term. Just what stands out about them on tape? What are the main things you guys got to watch out for going to this game?
They're old. Nick Honor's old. Dawes is old. Hunter Tyson's old. Collins is old. So they're real. The young man, I can't remember his name, comes off the bench. He's old. He's been around for a while. It's so there's a clear understanding of how to play, and old guys have a kind of a level mindset on how to go about the course of a game. They can really shoot the basketball. They're a really good team. I said on my radio show last night, today's day and age, people, you go 7-4, and as coaches, we got to apologize because we're not good. Are you kidding me? They're really good. They've played at Miami, at Rutgers, 3 games, 2 of which were against top 20 teams on a neutral court, and they're 7-4, and they're really good. They can really score. And defensively, they stress your defense. Brad does a tremendous job with the spacing that they create and the structure that they play in. And they got good players, and they're a good basketball team. And we're going to have to play out of our minds to put ourselves in a place where we got a chance to win at the end. And that's the kind of basketball you want to play, those kind of teams. And I think they're really good. I think, I respect. I've been here for 10 years. Brad's been there 12, I think. I think you guys know we respect each other. I think he does a great job. And I think he's done tremendous for that basketball program and basketball in the state. And they stress your defense. It's really, really hard to guard them. And they've got really good players. And Dave, I'm going off the top of my head. I was studying their numbers last night. At home, I believe they're shooting 47% from the 3-point line. And that's like elite level stuff there. And so, we'll go at it. We'll do, we're going to throw some things in there and see what we can do.
Michael and then John.
Just for the sake of clarity, I know you said, I think right before the season, all but 2 players on the team were vaccinated. Is that still the case? Did those 2 end up getting vaccinated, or what's sort of the status of those guys?
That status has not changed.
John and then Phil.
With Clemson having played West Virginia and you and Bob Huggins having such great influence on each other, how much can you learn from that game about Clemson? And, how does this situation affect how y'all can play from that standpoint?
I struggle watching any team we're getting ready to play that's played Hugs' teams, because I end up watching Hugs' team instead of watching the opponent that I'm trying to prepare for. And but I watched them enough to get a feel for Clemson to then watch. The last game I watched was the West Virginia game, and to get a good feel. They West Virginia, Clemson's going to make threes. That's not part of the equation. That's what they do, and they're good at it. They're going to make threes. So it's not about shutting them down from making threes. Is you got to limit the number of threes they shoot. If West Virginia got them to only shoot 14 threes, that's you got to keep their number down. You can't take bad shots because they run 5 shooters to the 3-point line. So in the broken floor, if you take a bad shot or turn it over, when they get in the broken floor, someone's going to get a 3. And it's really hard to get to 5 different guys on the 3-point line on a broken floor. So our offense is going to be very important. And then they're good. They're going to score. So we have to score. If we have bad dry spells offensively where we're taking good shots and not scoring, or like Florida State, in the first half, we missed some dinks, but then we also missed all our free throws. Those are empty possessions. That Clemson's a team that's going to score. So it's going to be hard to keep up with them if we have those kind of dry spells during the game. You asked me another question, John. There's a second. Yeah, we're going to have to make some adjustments with the personnel that we're going to have. It just is what it is. We're going to be missing some guys, and and the guys we're missing are a big part of our team, and so we got to make some adjustments.
Phil and then back to Dave.
Hey, Frank, any idea how the virus got into the team this time? And since you know who is out, can you say which players you'll be without on Saturday at this point?
Yeah, I'd rather not identify individuals. You guys will figure it out when the game starts, out of respect to their families and themselves. It's not a secret. It's not. I'm not trying to keep secrets here. You guys will figure it out. How it got in there, I got no idea. Phil, the numbers are through the roof all over the country again. And it's common sense. Back in the summer, Texas, Florida, some of those states, our state, the numbers in the summer were kind of moving up because it's really hot. So everyone's indoors. And then the fall hit. And then all those states that had high numbers then, and then, in the summer up north, everyone's outdoors because it's pleasant. And now everyone that's kind of north, the numbers are through the roof. And those states I talked about earlier, their numbers are way down because now this is the time of year everybody's outdoors when you're in Florida and Texas and states like that. And but at the end of the day, this thing's spreading again. And it's not going to stop. So how did it get into our locker room? I got no idea. I know we traveled 2 weeks in a row, going to Coastal, going to Rock Hill, hotels, being Coastal Carolina, sold out arena, Rock Hill, sold out arena. We play indoors. It's the winter time. It's infection season. It's the flu season. It's the sniffle season. It's COVID season. This is not our first rodeo with this disease. It's the third year dealing with this disease. And, it started, when winter hit 19, and we dealt with it last winter, and now we're dealing with it again. Why are we acting surprised that these numbers are going up at this time of year? It's the third year in a row we dealt with this. And, the frustrating part, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. We got choice A and choice B. Choice A is, do we get vaccinated to protect our health? I can't tell people what to do there. I choose to do that to protect my health. And then once I do that, I got to be at peace that I can do my job. But if I'm going to go do my job with the same policies that were in place pre-vaccinations, that doesn't make sense to me. How we're going to do our jobs when we know that it's infection season, that we're traveling, we're staying in hotels. We don't stay in private hotels. We stay in the hotels that every John Doe stays in. And then we're going to go in arenas they're sold out. I mean, and the one thing that's proven is vaccines don't prevent this from spreading. Vaccines prevent us from dying, not from it spreading. So if we're going to be exposed to all this, but have the same policies that we had pre-vaccine, then what's the purpose of getting vaccinated? We're not going to be able to play the season. Look what's starting to happen in professional, the NBA, and now college basketball. And then someone said to me, well, we're going to have to start testing again. Well, vaccinated people are going to be positive. So how are we going to play? If we start testing, asymptomatic people are going to be positive. So now they're on the shelf for X number of days, can't play. So, here we go again. But I'm at peace. I'm frustrated with not people that are decision makers not having these conversations before our season started. I know as coaches we talked about it, but the policies didn't change, and now we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole again, and that doesn't work.
Dave, and then back to Michael.
Frank, if you can say without, talk about any of the guys who are out because of a positive test, who do you like taking that immediate spot for Wilson at the 4, since he's going to be out a 3 weeks?
I'm going to slide Keyshawn there to start the game. And, and then, Brandon, I think, has done a pretty good job. He had not played real well the last 8-9 days, practice or games. And then he prepared really well before the Allen game. And then he went out against Allen, and I thought he played with the aggression and the discipline that we're asking him to play with. And so, I expect him to play the same way. So, it's, we got guys there, but to start the game, Keyshawn's the one that's going to kind of slide into that spot.
Michael, and then Colin.
Just to follow up and to make sure I understand, which policies in particular, COVID-19 wise, are still the same that you think should be changed, and what kind of, ideas do you have for changing them?
If you're vaccinated and you're asymptomatic, you should not get tested, because the vaccine doesn't prevent you from being positive. If you're asymptomatic, then, why are we testing? And if we're going to test them, then we can't have the policy we had last year where, think about that. I'll speak about me. I'm not going to speak about players or anyone else. Okay. I've had this crap twice. I'm double vaccinated. Next week, I go get my booster. All right. If they make me take a test, I'm not symptomatic and I'm positive, which is what you're starting to see. People are getting it for the second and third time. So I'm positive. I'm out for 10 days. That's what it was before vaccines. Why are we doing the same thing with vaccines? And I don't comprehend that. I don't know how we're going to be able to play. And again, when I say we, I'm not talking about South Carolina. I'm not about college basketball. I don't know how we're going to be able to play a season, with policies that were in place pre-vaccination. Unvaccinated people, that's a different animal. That's I'm not I'm not judging them. They make choices. They live life. I'm at peace with them. They're at peace with me. But there's, they make a choice. They got to deal with the policies that are in place. My thing is, if we're getting vaccinated because the vaccine prevents us from dying, not contracting this crap, we can't have the same policy. And if we test more, which that's fine, then we're going to have positives because the vaccine doesn't prevent us from being positive. So it just doesn't make sense to me. That's it. I'm not here criticizing anybody. I'm just sharing with you what doesn't make sense to me. I'm not a blamer. I don't blame in private. I don't blame in public. I'm not a blamer. I'm trying to say stuff to stir people's brains so they can create conversation, because if what I say makes sense, let's figure it out. And if it don't make sense, that's all right, ignore me. But I'm not passing blame. I just think we got to evaluate this if we're going to try and play a season, because if not, it's not going to work.
Colin?
A couple for you, but just how's Jermaine doing? And I guess you've talked a lot about how comfortable you are with your depth this year. How comfortable with some key guys that are you still in that depth going up to Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, thank God that we have that depth, and that we've had all kinds of different guys play well for us to help us win up to this point of the season. We've had multiple players at multiple spots, and just think about what we've dealt with. I mean, obviously one was a self-inflicted wound when Keyshawn suspended for 5 games. He's our most interchangeable player. He's a really good player, and he's just interchangeable. Well, we don't have him for 5 games. Then your starting point guard pulls his hamstring, then we have the flu bug hit our team. We got all kinds of guys just sick as dogs. We just haven't been able to put that same group of guys that we had the whole summer and in September and October on the court consistently together in practice or games. But we've had different guys step up to the plate with that next man up mentality, and it's been pretty good. Thank God we've had that. And that's what's going to help us get through this moment that we're in right now. Jermaine practiced yesterday, but all he did was limp around. I mean, he wasn't very effective. And, if he can't move, he can't play, and that's his challenge. He's got to be at peace with his body to listen, when you deal with injuries, you're one of those guys like Sindarius Thornwell. Sindarius rolled his ankle the day before that Auburn game, his sophomore year. That thing was a grapefruit. It was so big. He never missed a second of practice, played 30 minutes in that next game. Everyone's different. That doesn't mean one guy's tough, one guy's soft. No, everyone's different. You got to be at peace with your body so you can play. And that's, as coaches, we got to be at peace with that. And I don't trust the guy that plays with an injury more than the guy that takes his time with an injury. No, I trust them. I trust them for who they are as people, not their willingness to play with discomfort.
I guess maybe not worst case scenario, but if this game can't get played, if you guys don't have enough bodies, whether testing or contact tracing, does it go down as a forfeit, or will it just be a cancellation or suspension?
No contest. Only league games are forfeits. Non-league games are no contest.